Hi guys, Stealth here. Welcome to the War Room, episode 51. So, let's discuss what happened last week. Of course, we have the Israel DLC, and that's going to be an important element of this week's War Room. I've seen quite a lot of the DLC. I've seen quite a lot of people play it, but all of these exclamations of, oh, it's going to be overpowered, it has such fantastic units, I don't really see that materialize. Sure, they have some really good units. They have, for example, the Kurnas with the laser-guided bombs. They have the Merkava 2A or 2B with the grenade launcher. They have the Merkava 3D with the long-range ATGM. They have some really nice vehicles all around, but to call them overpowered, I don't know, because they only, and this is my opinion that is, they only seem to thrive in certain circumstances. They are overall pretty expensive. And in that regard, they remind me of the US units a bit. You need a specific income level to make those units effective. If you have an income that is not high enough, then the units simply don't either, they can be bought, or they don't really come into fruition because they are just not numerous enough. I mean, let's say that you take your infantry in the Merkava 2, so in the 80-point tank. That is going to limit the amount of infantry that you can deploy. And sure, you get a very powerful vehicle with it, but sometimes you just need more infantry. So are they overpowered? I don't think so. They have some really nice units, and I think they're a nice addition to Wargame. But I haven't really seen those lobbies where everyone is playing Israel, where everyone is complaining about how overpowered Israel is. And especially if you know their weakness, which, as far as I'm concerned, is their air department, or rather their anti-air department, then I don't find them to be that difficult to beat. At least if you hit them where it hurts, which is make sure that you have enough seed aircraft to kill all the Machbets, and then once those are gone, and you have a decent amount of air superiority, you can quite easily overwhelm the amount of units that they have. And that's something that I have already done in the game. So make sure that you hit them where it hurts. Fight them not on their terms but on your terms. The right circumstances will always kill off the Israeli deck and virtually any other deck with that. Make sure you fight to your strengths and their weaknesses. Talking about that, ranked battle Friday went very well as far as I'm concerned. It may not have been the most intense level, and I'm definitely not anywhere near Razman's level yet, but it's definitely improving. If you look at how I played Friday versus how I played about 10 weeks ago when I started ranked, there is a monstrous change in that. Initially, I was very nervous about the battles, because I was like, oh god, this is going to be like the elite of Wargame who are playing this level. I'm going to be facing guys like Razman and all of the other, let's say, legendary players around. And doing both that, a 1v1, coming up against high-tier players, and not really being sure about the deck, and having to do commentary at the same time, it was quite a lot. And therefore the first couple of gameplays were just not up to par. Later on, I was improving. I was getting more relaxed, and Friday I was actually doing very well. It was I felt very calm about it, very safe about being able to win that fight. In case you missed it, it was mud fight. The enemy pushed a lot of units into Alpha. I came around Fedor and pushed right over there as far as I could possibly go. Anyway, the video is up on the channel in case you want to have a look at it. The point that I'm trying to make here is that, as expected, playing ranked is just more exercise, it's just more training that you need. You need a different mindset, you need to think more along the lines of military objectives in the sense, or as opposed to getting more terrain. So, something that I did initially was trying to get more zones controlled. I don't really need to do that, I need to control terrain. And that's something that I also noticed quite heavily in videos from Razman. He doesn't really seem to go for immediately a lot of command vehicles, he goes for ground control. Because if you have, for example, this tree line, you can always put in a command vehicle later, whereas if you don't have the infantry to hold this line, then the command vehicle is very much at risk, and you risk losing the entire flank. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but it's a change in my thinking that I had to make. And I get quite a few messages from you guys as well saying, well, thank you, you're the reason that I got into ranked, or that I dared to try ranked. And if you're losing, well, you possibly have been paying attention to my ranked videos. I lost a lot, and I mean a lot of stuff. I think I lost, what was it, 5 to 6 gameplays before I finally won one, something like that. And even the one that I did win was still very, very shaky. So that took me quite a while to get used to, and basically you're gonna have to get used to biting the dust a few times before you actually get a win in. Talking about the Kurnas, here it is now. Other things from the depths. I just rehashed the Platypus submarine that I used for the first 10 episodes of the Adventure Mode series. It's now surface combatant, and it's quite heavily armored as well as heavily armed. It is shielded, it's quite fast, and has already proven its worth in the first video. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely do so, because this gameplay should be a lot more interesting than Submarine. Submarine felt a bit too easy. It felt like you could easily torpedo anything that happened to get in the way without being detected, without really taking any kind of return fire from the enemy team, or from the enemy spawns, that is. And therefore I just decided to turn it into a surface combatant, and this thing already proves to be more exciting because I get shot at more often, I take more damage, I get more damage that I need repaired, and overall I think it's more interesting. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. Then, the other game that I cover on the channel frequently is World of Warships. And World of Warships is now in full swing with the next ranked season. It's ranked season number 5. I am currently up to rank 12, I think. Started out at rank 22, so I made my way up the ranks. And I really hope to get to rank number 1, because I want to try and get a consistent rank 1 so I can finally get a chance at getting the Flint, which is, in case you're not familiar with it, an alternate version of the Atlanta class cruiser. This thing does not have radar, it does have smoke, and it does have long range torpedoes, making it very, very powerful. But you can only get that thing through ranked, and you gotta make sure that you get to rank number 1 consistently over, I believe, multiple seasons, and then after a while you get that ship. Definitely something I want to have added to my port, but it's going to be a while before I get there. Ships that I'm using mostly are the Lexington aircraft carrier and the Atago, the tier 8 premium Japanese cruiser. They seem to be doing really well. Some ships are just better suited to it than others. For example, Chapayev I found to be a bit lacking in that department. It does have a nice amount of firepower, it can set ships on fire, but there is just so much around in the sense of battleships that it's quite difficult to get a good position and to not get blown up instantly, because the Chapayev is a very, very vulnerable cruiser. It does come with torpedoes, but Atago has better torpedoes. It's more stealthy, the Atago, versus Chapayev. Other cruisers that I have tried, I believe I tried the Megami once, didn't really work out that well, in the sense that it was quite expensive to use. And while it is pretty stealthy, it is just not capable of repairing itself the way that the Atago is. That is something that you will notice, because you lose hit points, guaranteed, in ranked. The Atago can get those back. The Megami, not so much. So you gotta be really careful about how you play that ship. Another ship that I'm playing currently is the Baltimore, the tier 9 US cruiser, and I'm really trying to like it. I want to try and get up to the Des Moines, but with all the battleships around, I find that the Des Moines just doesn't do that much damage. Or sorry, the what's it called? The Baltimore doesn't do that much damage, at least not in my hands. It's a nice ship, it's really good at killing off enemy aircraft, but with the latest nerfs or changes to the economy, it's sort of a nerf to carriers because they get rewarded differently. Tanking, for example, so taking damage, does get a reward, and that's something that carriers just cannot do. They cannot cap zones, or at least they're not very likely to capture zones. They're not very likely to tank damage, and those are two important elements of getting both XP and credits, those two combined make it so that you see less aircraft carriers because they're not as profitable, and with all the AA around, it's just very difficult to get good lines of sight on targets and get good kills. It's not impossible, you still see some aircraft carriers, but with less aircraft carriers you also see the need for less AA cruisers. And therefore the Baltimore basically lost its role in that sense. It just doesn't have that much to do. So as much as I try to like the Baltimore, I just find that it's a bit lacking. And I will continue to grind it. I just don't really know how long it's going to take. Probably a couple of months before I get there. And I really hope that by then Wargaming has had a good look at the cruisers, changed the whole battleship meta, where we see so many battleships around, and that they can get the cruisers back into the saddle. They can give the cruisers a role again. Because they're such nice ships, they're so versatile, but with all the battleships around, they just get killed off way too easily and way too quickly. And yes, that's probably down to me as well. Something else I wanted to discuss is an interesting article that I read yesterday. It's about, I believe, a Russian software developer who had a best friend. The best friend died, and they had, of course, a very, very good amount of contact through instant messaging, WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever. She was not quite prepared to lose her friend, the software developer. And what she did was she built a bot with the basically all the online information that she had of him. She inputted a lot of his text messages that he sent to her, a lot of the interactions that they had online, and by doing so basically created a sort of online bot avatar of him. And this sparked quite a bit of discussion, because on the one hand you could say, is this alright? Is this something that we can do? I mean, it is clearly something that we can do, but is this something that we really need? Because you don't really interact with another person, you interact with a computer who is seemingly talking through the lines or through the ways that someone else has been saying stuff, and therefore you get the idea that you might be talking not to a computer but to the person, like he was still alive and on the other side of the computer. And I think that this is only the beginning. This is only sparking the beginning of that whole conversation. Because as we gain more technology, we're also looking at, I believe, the Japanese, who are very, very quickly developing robotics. Not just the Japanese, but they're always the first ones to come to mind when I think of robotics. And they're creating robotic companions. So not strictly sex bots or pleasure bots, but just bots which are there for companionship. For example, for senior citizens in old people's homes who don't really have that much along the lines of people who come to visit them. And instead they get a companion bot which talks to them, which gives them exercises, games, whatever. The way that they feel connected. And you could say, well, it's very unusual because we feel connected to a bot or a computer or a piece of machinery. But I think that more and more we're going to continue heading in that direction. And it's only going to speed up. It's only going to get faster, this change. So it's really up to you to determine or to decide what kind of posture you have to that. Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's weird? Do you think it should be forbidden? Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Is it something that you're in favor of or against, or is that not even a relevant question because it's happening anyway? So a lot of questions in this one, both on the Israel DLC or the Israel OP pack, World of Warships. I'm wondering what your experience has been so far, and the article, which I have linked to in the description down below, so you can have a look at that. And unfortunately, that is all I have time for this week. I'm off today for a couple of different business meetings, one of which is a presentation for about 40 to 50 people, I believe. A couple of companies and a college. So I have no further time for the War Room. But have a good week. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon for more videos.